Good afternoon. Sue Smith sitting in for Aaron this afternoon. And, for most people, it's a long weekend, and many Montrealers will be celebrating around a table laden with delicious and probably mostly traditional food, whether it's lamb for Easter or unleavened bread for Passover. It's really a time to turn to old favorites for your holiday table. Kat Romanow is a Jewish food historian, and she runs The Wandering Jew, and she joins me on the line. Good afternoon, Kat.
Hi, Sue.
So what are some of the more traditional dishes that we might find on a Passover table?
Yes, so you're always going to find matzah, the unleavened bread that we eat during the holiday. Looks like a cracker. Mm-hmm. Other traditional dishes include brisket and matzo ball soup. And then you have some dishes that you make for the Passover Seder, like haroset, that you probably have leftovers of and we eat throughout the holiday.
What's haroset?
So haroset is a fruit and nut mixture that's meant to represent the mortar that the Israelites used to build the pyramids while they were slaves in Egypt. Right. And it's usually made with apples and walnuts and cinnamon and wine. And of course, it varies, though, from Jewish community to Jewish community.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's what I'm wondering, because, of course, these things are traditional and especially with Passover, so linked to history and the story of the Exodus of the Jews. But do people eat them because of that, because it's traditional, or do people kind of try to change it up a little bit?
Right. That's a great question. So there are some dishes and things that you'll find on a Seder table, which happen on the first 2 nights of the holiday, that are symbolic. And so you'll always find them on the table. And like haroset is one of them. Right. And the matzah, of course, you'll also find on a Seder table, but again, that's eaten throughout the whole holiday. And I think, with haroset, the recipe I just mentioned is really like the traditional kind that comes from the Ashkenazi community, which is the Eastern European Jewish community. But then you also have harosets from communities around the world. So there's, I love to bring in different kind of harosets to kind of mix it up a little bit on during the Seder and during the holiday itself. And so one of my favorites to make is a haroset from Curacao. It's from the Jewish community there. And it's made with peanuts and dates and prunes and figs and orange zest and lime juice. And you roll them into balls and then coat them in toasted coconut. And it is truly so good. And I really love to eat them like as a snack or even just for breakfast throughout the whole holiday.
It's funny, though, because people really get tied to having the same foods year after year, right? I know in our family, if you try to change one thing, for example, at Christmas, everybody's like up in arms. What? You're not making tortilla this year? And it's like, guys, there's a whole bunch of stuff out there we could eat. But I wonder what you think about that. Like, of course, the food for Passover is tied to history, but also, there are a lot of different choices you could make, right? But people tend to do the same things year after year.
Yeah, that's right. And I know a lot of my friends will make the same dishes year to year because that's what their family does. Yeah. I'm less tied to that. And as someone who loves to make different kinds of Jewish food, and I'm a cook that loves to try new recipes, I always try to bring something new into my Passover meals. So one of the things, and I love to put modern twists on traditional dishes. Right. So, for example, when I make my matzo ball soup, I'll make a pretty traditional matzo ball soup. So, chicken broth with the matzo ball in it. But then I love to make a topping of finely chopped carrots, finely chopped garlic, finely chopped celery, and some parsley, very finely chopped, all mixed up to put on top of the matzo ball soup. And what it does is just bring some freshness and some crunch to this dish that you wouldn't usually find this on there. So I love to do that. Yeah. For my brisket, I'm going to make like a nice red wine brisket. And, not so much like the onion soup mix brisket that you might usually find. and he, yeah.
That you just slid that in nicely there. Not that we have any judgment about that.
No, I love a good onion soup mixed biscuit. Don't get me wrong. And then the other thing is we're actually visiting family in Atlanta. And so during the holiday, I'm going to eat some pimento cheese on matzah. And if you don't know what pimento cheese is, it's this amazing classic Southern dip made from cheddar, sharp cheddar and mayonnaise and pimentos. And so instead of, or alongside, the traditional chopped liver I'll eat during the holiday, I always buy some pimento cheese or make it.
So a little bit of the old with the new.
Yes, exactly.
So how do you recommend if people are listening and they're still, like, to your point, the 2 Seders are over, but there's still a lot of cooking to go out for this long weekend and the rest of the holiday. What would you recommend people do to kind of, pump up their regular food?
Yeah, of course. So, if you have leftover matzo ball soup, you can, I say, give that topping a try.
Yeah.
You can kind of slip in new flavors using, different kinds of spices and ingredients. Another thing I think would be fun, like the classic snack of butter on matzah. But instead of just, having plain butter, I love to make a flavored butter. And so I love to put in some preserved lemons and then some freshly chopped herbs like dill and parsley and chives and mix that all up with like a softened salted butter and then spread that on my matzah. So even doing like super easy little things like that, I think can bring some really lovely fresh flavors to the holiday.
And that's good advice for just any cooking, even if it's not for a holiday, just sort of to pump it up a little bit. Kat, listen, thank you so much for sharing some of your traditions with us, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays. It was my pleasure. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Experience Bruno Mars live in Toronto.
Guess who's back again?
iHeartRadio wants to send you and a friend with flights from tripcentral.ca. 2 nights at Sheraton Centre Toronto. Tickets to Bruno Mars and $1,000 cash.
Don't believe me, just watch.
Download the free iHeartRadio app. Listen to iHeart New Music for 10 minutes.
I'm coming to get you.
Win your way to Bruno Mars.
Will you be there? Oh, I just might.
Every day you listen is another chance to win.